Hello there, and welcome to the Hoover Sci-Fi Fantasy Festival 2021. This is the Star Wars Publishing Panel, where we're going to cover the novels, the comics, and any of the ancillaries that are just out there, the extended canon universe from Lucasfilm and Disney. Let me introduce first Miss Marie Wilson from Afra's Artifacts. Show your shirt. There your shirt. There we go. Yeah. And Mr. Michael Nip from the Deuce Cast.
What is up, Stan and Marie? How's it going?
Yeah,
good.
Lovely, bopping right along. And I'm Stan Daniel from Kingdom Casts. So let's just dive right into it. I guess the biggest aspect going on in the publishing right now is the High Republic. I mean, that's the big push that doesn't have the extended media of Disney Plus behind it. Just the books, the comics, and what else is there?
Children's books.
Children's books, yeah.
Short stories.
Short stories.
Yeah, in the magazine, there's short stories every month. Yeah.
Excellent. Did they? I don't keep up with the toys as much. Do they have a toy line?
Not yet. Not yet. Now, I mean, the Acolyte, which is a show that'll be on Disney Plus, is supposed to tie into the High Republic a little bit. So maybe there'll be some toys for once that happens, but that's a year or two out before that happens.
Down the road. Well, what are y'all thinking of the overall arc so far? I told Michael earlier, I haven't gotten completely into the novels. I've got the novels. I just haven't started them, but I'm up on all the comics.
Yeah.
And the comics I'm enjoying pretty much. I actually like Star Wars Adventures, the High Republic from IDW, a little bit better than I like the Marvel High Republic. But
interesting.
I think the art has something to do with it too.
Oh yeah, the art is purposefully a bit different.
Yeah. I mean, decidedly different. Marie, you are the all be all end all of Star Wars information. So, what are you thinking of High Republic?
I'm really enjoying it. One comparison I've made is for example, Light of the Jedi, the first adult novel that came out in the High Republic, so many new characters. But I think Charles Soule did an incredible job of fleshing out each of those characters so that you really, really feel like you know them and it doesn't feel like like too much information all at once. Whereas with the Alphabet Squadron books, I struggle a little bit because there's so many characters and they're not as fleshed out. Like the minor characters are not as fleshed out, so it's a little confusing. But the High Republic has an advantage because they have the comics, and the comics give you pictures of a lot of the characters, of the bad guys, and the children's books too give you images of the vehicles, the ships. Now there have been some continuity issues that have bothered me, but I mean, I guess that's just to be expected.
Kind of a growing pains thing with it.
Yeah.
And as Stan and I, you and I are like the old school Star Wars fans. We don't like change. We don't like to have to learn new characters and all of that type of thing. But I think, like Marie was saying, Charles Soule did a really good job with explaining each character. And what I love about specifically the Jedi characters is we're getting new attributes of what their powers are.
Yeah.
So you can almost equate, like once you figure out, hey, Avar Kriss is the one that does stuff with music or whatever as her Jedi power. And it's like so unique that name gets, stuck in your brain. Skeezer, or however you say his name, he's just awesome because he's a Trandoshan Jedi. I mean, Skier, yeah, him, that guy. He's a Trandoshan Jedi, which is awesome, and he is very heavily featured in the comic. And it's like almost his story in a way. At least these first several issues have almost just been his story, so it's been pretty neat.
Well, that harkens back to the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, where we really went in depth to Mace Windu's force ability, the fracture points.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because you don't get a lot of that with, like, we don't know. Do we know what Kit Fisto's particular talent is, that sort of thing. We're not seeing that a whole lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like that they're going back to saying Jedis are unique.
Right.
You know, they each use the Force in a different way, and similar ways in some cases. But like the music thing, that's brilliant. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was so unique, and the way that they explained it in the book was just so cool. And that particular character, I love. She's probably my favorite. I mean, which she's going to be super important. I mean, all of them are going to be super important, but I like that character a lot. I like Skeezer. Is that his name? Skeezer?
Skier.
Yeah.
Skier.
Yeah.
I want to be Skeezer though. But yeah, Skier. He's awesome, and I love the two threats coming at the Jedi. The whole idea, of course, with the High Republic is that it was the Renaissance era, basically, for a better way to put it, or for lack of a better way to put it. It's just the era where everything was happy. They're opening this station in space. It's sort of like a beacon of hope to be able to get messages out to people. And then all of a sudden, we get the Nihil. At least in the first book, they're kind of like focused upon as the main villain. You got the Nihil coming in and really wreaking havoc on, I guess, by utilizing some of hyperspace, they're throwing things at planet. Like, it was crazy. I mean, just the way that they were throwing things at planets. But then you've also got the Drengir that are really focused upon in the comic, which are, I equate them more obviously as sort of an organic enemy in a way, because they're plants, and there's some connection we find out in the most recent comic. There's like some weird Force connection there that they've got, which I'm really
the progenitor.
Yes, I'm really enjoying that concept, that there is this connection that the Jedi don't quite understand yet with this progenitor, who is like the main, and off in another part of wild space, unknown region. I don't know where this character is, but they're going to have to hunt this character down, is basically where the comic book is.
Well, I really like the structure of it. Forgive me if Starbright Station.
Starlight Beacon. Yeah, that's
Starlight
basically,
Beacon. Starlight Beacon. I really like the idea of that the outer rims are the Wild West.
Yeah.
And, this is the checkpoint for the space wagons that are daring to travel out there. And I love that it's all, you've got that aspect of it. And then you've got kind of a Pax Romana thing going on with the Chancellor Saw. And each citizen of the Republic is the Republic. Going forward and going out into it. And they're having to expand simply because, well, they're using up space. I mean, the overpopulation of the Republic. And so this is the early days of the expansion. I think in the future we're going to get to see creatures or other species, aliens and such, that we're already familiar with that haven't acclimated into the Republic yet. And I'd be interested seeing how they come to terms with that.
Absolutely.
So I'm, like I said, I'm primarily the comic books on that so far. I'm going to catch up on the novels, but I like what I'm seeing so far. I'm kind of bland on a couple of aspects of it, but we've got time with it. God knows they've got time.
Yeah.
If they have nothing else, they have time. So.
And there are going to be like multiple phases and that's one thing that I find really interesting is, and it was a almost overkill, but it was still really cool how they had the adult novel, the junior reader, the adult novel, the middle grade novel, the young adult novel, the children's book, that all four were about the great hyperspace disaster.
Yeah.
And it all centered around that one event. And the first couple short stories and the comics, like, had the first couple comics that they all centered around that one thing. And then this next group of all the different kinds of books are going to be centered around that fair, the Republic Fair.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting that they're doing it that way. It does make things a little confusing with the comics, how they line up with everything,
Mhm.
because I'm still trying to figure out, because right now in the comics, they're dealing with all these Dringir that are like taking over and attacking and all this stuff. But I'm not 100% sure where that slots in.
Yeah, I mean, because it feels like that, at least from where I am now, I'm in the Cavan Scott's book right now. So I'm in the most recent adult novel right now. I'm right in the middle of it. I love Cavan Scott's writing style. He's fantastic. I'm really enjoying the book. It's the thing I hate about social media is you get spoiled really easily. So I unfortunately know some of the stuff that's going to happen in this book, and it's pretty devastating. Spoiler alert, it's pretty devastating. I won't tell you what happens, but I love that we are not really dealing too much with the Drengir in the books, and they're kind of like focusing on that villain in the comics. It does make it a little easier, at least to follow in that aspect, where the books you're dealing mostly with the Nihil. The comics you're dealing mostly, at least the Marvel, you're dealing mostly with the Drengir, and then in the IDW you've got the Nihil messing around, and I love the IDW, which has always been part of the Star Wars adventure things. It sort of focuses on the younger characters in this case. You've got this this force sensitive being that they've taken in. They are not going to put her through the trials, which I don't quite understand. I guess she's too old.
I know. I'm like, come on now.
It's the Anakin thing. She's too old. We can't put her through the trials yet. So they're not going to put her through the trials, but she's going to stick around, which is kind of interesting. So they don't want her to go down a wrong path. So they're at least going to keep her around. And it's funny, they've got a... Anytime you're in a story and you have a character named Bucket of Blood, it's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm just like, yes, give me a character named Bucket of Blood. Yeah, exactly. And so I love that character, and I like Yoda a lot in the IDW comics. Like, he's very much a presence in the IDW realm. Now, they've sent him off at this point to do his own thing, so he's stepped away a little bit. Because he's going on his own little adventure that maybe we'll pick up someplace else. But I love the fact that they have a familiar character to get those that were maybe skeptical about jumping into this High Republic era to maybe at least be a little interested in doing so. I mean, that's important to get those old curmudgeon fans to come join into the High Republic era.
They exited Yoda because of Tal Boda, don't you think? Am I saying that right? Tal Boda?
Something like that,
BOTA is how, the one that all the little Padawans are just, worship, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So they brought him in. I kind of think he's a fast burn character. You know what I mean? I think he's being set up for a devastating, relatively quick demise.
Yep.
That's been one interesting thing about especially in Light of the Jedi, you are introduced to these characters, and just when you grow to appreciate them, it's like, they're gone. Like, what? So it's crazy. They don't pull any punches with this High Republic.
If they do not. Game of Thrones on this, I'd be okay. Yeah, just as a different type of read.
Yeah.
So, you want to move on to some of the other media?
Well, I mean, I did want to say a couple other things about the High Republic. I love the concept of the Santeca clan. So we've got some of Lord Santeca's ancestors. I think was it his grandfather and his grandfather's husband that were involved in creating the hyperspace lanes. Is that kind of? Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And their description of hyperspace is so crazy. Like, you're in your own bubble that's its own plane of existence, and I was like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
it's so
It's-
bizarre.
Yeah, it's certainly like some of the High Republic, you know, from being one of those old curmudgeon fans sometimes, I never equated Star Wars with science fiction. I always felt it more like a fantasy space opera type thing. I think some of the High Republic concepts are delving deep into some sci-fi type stuff. I mean, especially, you know, like you just mentioned, the hyperspace lane creation, and I think just this concept of the Dren gear is very science fiction, you know, more science fiction based, I think, than fantasy based. And so it's a little bit different. Like your brain has to read it a little bit differently than you're watching the films or taking in more of like a swashbuckling adventure type situation that Star Wars is. I mean, it's much more into the realm of science fiction, I think, in the High Republic, which is fine. It's just your brain has to read it a little bit differently.
Right.
There was so we had the mention of the Santeca clan, and I like that. Now that we've got that background, it certainly, and what I love about any of the publishing is it helps enrich anything that you've seen on screen. I mean, that's kind of like the idea. I mean, and yes, there's this huge discussion now of, is the galaxy of Star Wars, you know, too small? I say no.
Yeah, I
say
have an
no.
opinion about that.
Yeah, since I brought it up, Marie, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, in our reality, our actual universe, galaxy, we don't know of any other planet with, you know, life. So how common is life on other planets? So, like, if you think about it, even in a big galaxy, there aren't going to be, I mean, yes, there are tons and tons of planets in the Star Wars galaxy, but like, yeah, you're going to have overlap of people, because there's not an infinite number of planets that can support life.
Right.
So I think it's perfect. It doesn't bother me at all.
And Star Wars fandom is so funny and so fickle in ways, because the complaint, of course, with Force Awakens, how come we didn't see any of the aliens that we're always so used to seeing? And now the complaint is the galaxy too small? I mean, like, no, the galaxy is not too small. I mean, it's what it needs to be, you know, for the story.
I actually get slightly concerned, because I know the what used to be Industrial Light and Magic, but the Creature Shop at Lucasfilm, almost every episode of The Mandalorian will have a different creature in the background or something when he goes into a inhabited village or something along those lines. So I get concerned of, like, are we turning out alien species a little too quick here?
Right.
I mean, you know, we see Ithorians, and I love, and this is an entirely different discussion, but I love the fact that Hammerhead, the classic toy, is showing up in Bad Batch.
Right.
I think that's hysterical. So but you get all these different species and not enough time to explore them. I just don't want them to get overwhelmed, because I like a bit of I do like the continuity. I like the new canon. I like the way that it does all relate. Yeah, there's a quirk here, there's a quirk there, but generally they've done a marvelous job since Tarkin, the novel, hit the shelves, of holding it all together.
Yeah,
for sure.
Totally.
And so I just don't want to see them go by the wayside and, you know, not know who this one alien creature is off to the side, or at least a species, or you know, their species or whatever.
Yeah, so I really appreciate it when an author takes a planet civilization from another author's work and uses it in their work, because I'm like, good. Like, I'm glad there's that continuity, that we're not just creating new planets every time we need a planet. Instead, we're taking from what's already there, because it's familiar and it makes sense.
Yes, it does. And Soul is one of the writers. He really knows what he's doing, and he's at least aware of everybody else's work, of what other people are doing in the genre.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with Pack on the comic books.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, most of them are doing a great job of keeping up with the others.
Yeah.
So yeah,
There's one more thing I want to say about the High Republic.
Please.
So I think it's really interesting how incredibly, I don't know the right word to use, kick butt. How incredibly kick butt the Jedi are in the High Republic, because they're able
Totally.
to do everything on their own. Like,
Mhm.
they control the vectors, their ships with they have the lightsaber key, and then they just control it with the Force, and they don't use droids. And then they have the speeder bikes, the Veil speeders, and then the Vanguards, the V wheels on
Mhm.
land. And all of these are controlled by the Force. Like,
Yeah.
they don't use droids. They don't use like super intense technology. And I wonder if that's part of why there was the downfall of the Jedi, because they started
Yeah.
relying on technology.
well, they're
Or
more active
yeah.
they're more active in the during the High Republic. They're more out there. People, there's more of a commonality with the general population and the Jedi.
Yeah.
By the time we get to Phantom Menace, you know, they've withdrawn. They're in a temple. Some people don't even believe Jedi exists.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true.
Yeah, every time somebody says Jedi, you know, another character usually has to explain in the prequel that they're wizard, peacekeeper, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've noticed the same thing. There's an astonishing, let's say in comparison, R2D2 saved everybody in the prequels and the original trilogy. Repeat,
Yeah.
there are no R2D2s floating around in the High Republic so far.
Uh-uh.
You know,
It's
Yeah.
just
they're
rocks.
at
They have a
best-
rock. That's about all they've got.
Yeah, they're all- so it's that complacency. You can easily tell a definite degradation between the High Republic Jedis
Mhm.
and where we start off in Phantom Menace, that is much more political oriented, and the
Mhm.
central focus is the temple on Coruscant.
Right.
Mhm.
And you can see look, getting there, if they ever decide to tell that story, you know, over the I think there's like an 80-year gap between the end of the High Republic era and Phantom Menace. If they ever decide to tell that story, that'd be very interesting to me.
Yeah.
I know it's going
Yeah,
to be one
I
of
mean,
those.
I think that we're certainly, like Marie was saying. I mean, these books have not pulled any punches with
No.
eliminating characters,
Yeah.
and so I really think that we are going to get to a point of grave tragedy at some point. Like, you know, I don't think things are going to go well for the Jedi in the High Republic era. I think something really bad is going to happen. I mean, because think about it, you know, we don't hear, and they're going to have to retcon some of this somehow, but we don't hear their names discussed in the prequel era in any way, in any novelization. So there's gonna be a bridge gap somewhere, like where they're gonna have to explain, like, why aren't these Jedi that were so renowned in the galaxy ever spoken of anymore? That's gonna have to happen.
They've got a way out on that, and the way out is we don't have a lot of canon novels on the prequel
Sure.
era.
Sure.
And yeah, and leading up to it, I mean, we've got that wonderful Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, Count Dooku set, which I loved. I loved
Yeah.
it. I thought that was great. And
the Padme books, but they're more focused solely on, you know, what's going on Naboo. But
that's right. They've got blinders on their subject, and so yeah, they've got plenty of room for that.
Mhm.
And it's not something like, why would Mace Windu, in casual conversation with, again, apparently he's my go-to Jedi, Kit Fisto, you know, mention somebody that existed 80 to 100 years beforehand, unless it was immediately relevant to a situation.
That's true. That's true.
And
that's a good point.
But yeah, they'll easily fit this in. I mean, look at what we've seen so far. Ahsoka, hell, it comes as a shock to me when I realized, wait a minute, Ahsoka's never been in any of the movies. Because you're so familiar with her.
Yeah.
Well, technically, her voice was in
Episode 9. Yeah.
Episode 9, but that's it.
Yeah. and that's it. So yeah, they'll find a way to work this through.
And in
Yeah.
the comics, they've done such a good job of the High Republic infiltrating into the comics in different ways. In the the 4 series that are currently ongoing.
Yeah, and we can talk about those because I actually am not current on any of those. So you guys can certainly like chime in. I know that there's a lot going on in War of the Bounty Hunters, like a lot of really cool stuff going on in War of the. Since we're trying to cover all publishing here, so yeah, I mean, let's move into that because that's a great story from what I understand.
Well, are you enjoying War of the Bounty Hunters, Marie?
Yes, very much so. I might be 1 or 2 issues behind just because I've had a lot going on. I own them. I just haven't read them yet because I like to read them and then immediately review them.
How much of a spoiler are we going to do here? Because there's one really
one big spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't do spoiler stuff just because you don't know who's going to be watching. So we probably shouldn't do spoiler
then
stuff.
I'll put it like this. What do you think about the incorporation of that character?
It was really cool because I figured it out because of an ancillary character that I saw, and I was like, oh, are they doing this? And then I saw the character and I was like, oh my God. So like, I didn't know exactly how to feel about it because I was excited, but they're
even more cold-hearted and cutthroat than we felt possible there.
Yeah.
Considering the situation. The basic outline, without getting too spoilerific,
Yeah.
is Boba Fett has Han and carbonite. And the carbonite is not quite stable enough, so Boba Fett has to take a side trip to one of his little behind-the-scenes cities where he knows a guy that knows a guy to stabilize the carbonite. And in the process, Han gets stolen. And now all hell is broke loose because given what's going on with Vader, the Vader comic book, is that not some of the best stuff they've ever put out?
So I was loving the Vader comic. I was loving it. Absolutely. Like what do they call them? The Amidalans. Like I love the Amidalan stuff. I loved seeing the handmaidens. I thought all of that was fascinating. And then I loved the Ochia Bestoon stuff and going to Exegol. But then that Exegol issue, it kind of, the Vader comic started going this way for me.
Well, you've got, Filoni said before, that Vader is not redeemed until Luke redeems him.
Yeah, see, I was wanting it to be this gradual redemption, and then it like wasn't, and I was like,
it,
wait,
and then it like that.
So,
but you see, I like it still because this is understandable to me. This is acceptable. It continues to shore up episode 9. Given the situation, circumstance, but above all else, do not mess with Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, Vader's always listed as one of the biggest bad guys in fiction ever. Movie, always number 1 in movie fictional bad guys. And so, but it's Sheev.
Yeah.
It's Sheev. It's Palpatine. That's the real threat here. Yeah, and I love him so much. We're on a first name basis.
He is pretty great.
He is spectacularly awesome, and I like the fact that now Vader's mad, and sees, I've made this mistake because I was walking a path to redemption, but no more, and now I'm going to go correct the Solo mistake. And this is just. Boy, the Vader book, I think, just knocks it out of the park. The Star Wars book is doing great. And the actual way they've managed to continue, and it's not the right word. I want to say sketchiness of Lando, but that's
Mhm.
not the right word at all, given the circumstances that he's in. But
Yeah.
the way they continue to walk Lando in that gray area and keep that tension there, and the relationship he and Lobot have, this is some wonderful, outstanding stuff. And of course, Afra, Major League Entertainment, just going on doing what, its own thing off to the side here with some of the best characters ever.
Absolutely.
Do you
I was
think do you think with that Afra character that they're ever going to do a live action show?
Yes, she's coming.
I
Oh.
hope so.
She's
So much.
coming.
I mean, obviously, I hope
Oh
so.
well, Afra's art, of course.
Look, I'd be willing to bet that she shows up in Captain Andor.
Oh, in the Andor series. Interesting. I mean, that's the right era. So that would make sense that
she'd be a little more of a. It would be more. She would be more Indiana Jones Temple of Doom.
That would be early Afra, right?
where
like
he was
before she, a
scavenger, more of a little more cutthroat. Indiana was more of a cutthroat in Temple of Doom than he was Raiders. So,
that's true.
So I could see Afra being a little bit more of a diehard pirate type character.
I mean, my fan casting for Afra, if it ever happens, has always been Chloe Bennett from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's who I think would be the perfect Afra. But I don't know if they'll actually do that.
Oh,
but that's
their comedic timing needs to be dead on.
Well, I think I think
gets,
she's a good actress, could pull that off. But I mean,
Afra gets all of the best lines.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like, dear God, let somebody else say something on occasion. But I love it. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, who has not read the comics, the only exposure that I've had to Afra was the novel. Well, I guess it was not called a novel, but it was like an audio drama.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, I think that character has a lot that they could do in a live action series.
For a non-force sensitive, for a standard, she takes the cake. She really does. This character is very substantial. Something else, and it's another one of these characters that I can't believe we haven't seen in any other medium other than the comics yet. Just like I was talking about Ahsoka.
There was one short story in the original From a Certain Point of View.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, with Afra in it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I'll have to go back as I read that book. I'll have to go back and.
She was on Yavin 4.
Okay.
And they ran into Imperials that were trying to clean out the Masasi temples after the rebels evacuated.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. I remember that. There's so many that, I mean, between the two books, keeping track of all those short stories, it's like I remember the one you're talking about now.
What did y'all think of the Empire book, Certain Point of View?
I liked them both.
I did too.
I really liked it. I adore finding out about minor and previously undisclosed characters, and it gives you a whole other perspective of the movie. You sit down and you're like, ooh, that guy's this person, and this person's this person, and like it's to me it's
their whole
delightful.
Story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing. I cannot believe Jackson is canon.
Well, he was canon before. I mean, he was in I think it was one of the Galaxy Adventure of cartoons in the little animated he was actually in the cartoons also. So he's been canon. He was canonized at that point, I think.
And he was in the IDW Star Wars Adventures.
Yeah. And I wish that that's one thing that I'm not clear of.
Agreed.
On those IDW Star Wars adventures. Like, are we supposed to assume that those were canon? Because I wasn't quite sure on those stories.
I think so.
Yes, they are canon.
Because that's the other thing with a Certain Point of View novelizations. Are we talking that these are canon or canon adjacent? Like some of that, not that I really care about that stuff, but that wasn't very clear, and they hesitated to really throw that out there.
There's a bit in Empire Strikes Back, Certain Point of View, where it's it's Bosk and Dengar, isn't it, Marie? That immediately after the Han Solo situation, or during the Han Solo situation, ends up on kind of a side quest. But then the next time we see we see Bosk and Dengar make an agreement, an arrangement, but the next time we see Dengar, he's in the comics working with IG-88 and in a firefight.
Yeah.
In a firefight over Han Solo.
Well,
So,
I mean, and I think that we can say, as far as the publishing is concerned, because I think there's been a couple of things recently that have contradicted the books a bit. Like, Cobb Vanth,
Ahsoka,
for example. That character, Cobb Vanth, his origin or how he got, Boba Fett's armor was a bit different in the Aftermath book than it was in, The Mandalorian.
Yeah. You don't think there's enough leeway there that
I personally don't care. Now there's people out there that will get annoyed by stuff like that. I mean, because, they've always said that all the books are canon, all the comics are canon. They've said that from the beginning when they got rid of the EU. And so to contradict yourself is a bit weird. And not to spoil anything that happened in Bad Batch necessarily, but even with I think it was the Lords of Sith book, Orn Free Taa was hanging out. There was a thought that maybe something happened to that character. They weren't very clear about it. Obviously, it was pretty clear if you actually listened to the episode that it was an attempted assassination. They said that word, but for like a few moments, as happens in social media, when something instantly happens, people go on social media and said, wait a minute, he can't be dead. He was in Lords of the Sith. I mean, it's just, there's people out there that will be annoyed by that stuff if it happens too much.
I'm up on the majority of canon. I'm not as up as I was this time last year on it because life happens. But Marie, you're a walking encyclopedia. Are you finding real incontinuity? I can see the Ahsoka situation. But are you finding real continuity errors going on frequently?
The biggest one that stands out to me, and it's in the High Republic, and I don't understand why they did this, but in the adult novels, the Nile have strikes, clouds, and storms that are individual people. And then in the middle grade and young adult novels, strikes, clouds, and storms are groups of people. And I'm like, what? Like, what? That is the weirdest thing. That's
interesting.
To not make continuous across all media. So that really like stood out to me, and I was like, well, what are we supposed to accept is the actual hierarchy of, because it says very explicitly, and I'm only like a couple chapters into The Rising Storm, but it says very explicitly the hierarchy of the Nile is those three things, and they're individual people. And so it was, I don't know, that was strange. So there was that. And then there was some visual discontinuity where you had like the picture of the Legacy Run in the children's book didn't match up with the description of the Legacy Run in Light of the Jedi. And I was like, what? And there are some other little things. So things like that have stood out to me. But I have, maybe it's a problem. I don't know. Maybe it's an asset. But I have this thing where I remember detail. Like if I really think about it, I can clearly remember exact conversations and exact details and things like that. So those things really like are glaring to me because I'm like, wait a second. But besides that, the Ahsoka novel, there was that.
The Cobb Vanth thing.
But I mean, that didn't bother me so much because I was just super excited that they took a character from the Aftermath trilogy, because that is one of my absolute favorite trilogies. Yeah. I love it.
Well, also, Snap Wexley and died in episode 9 too. He was originated in Aftermath. But the Cobb Vanth thing, he could have, that whole situation we saw in Mandalorian could have went down. He could have encountered the Sandcrawler and the deputy, the mining company
Mhm.
individual, and get that kickoff like right here. This is the line. I'm going to turn it around.
Mhm.
And so we haven't. There's nothing saying that he didn't find the little baby hut and the Rancor keeper.
That's
There's
true.
nothing at all saying that. He's not necessarily going to say to Mando, "Oh, look, here's what's going on in my life."
That's
Up
true.
to this point, that's completely
Yeah.
irrelevant to you.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's still the Wild West out there, and you keep your guns close to your side, even with your friends. So.
Mhm.
So the Cobb Vance thing doesn't bother me as much. Ahsoka, yeah, okay.
That one was the most egregious, I think, so far, is the Ahsoka one, and that certainly did upset quite a few people.
Yeah, but I'm willing to forgive it because of the spectacular episode.
Oh yeah,
We got out of
totally.
This happened. Somebody reported this. You can always rely on that certain point of view thing.
Mhm.
You can always say that the report of this, well, that's from the point of view of this individual over here, and they got it wrong.
Yeah.
And so for the little things, but if Darth Vader shows up in a white uniform, white armor, and so on, then we got a problem.
Right. Sure.
Somebody needs to stop and let's explain a few things here.
There was one more instance, the pilot episode of Bad Batch.
Okay.
Kanan,
Oh yeah.
Caleb Doom.
That's right. That was a big deal to a lot of people also because it was explained differently, right?
Yeah, the original story had this like really deep conversation between Depa Billaba and Caleb Doom, and that conversation, there's no way it would have happened in the way things like played out, and
right.
They had already in the comic they had already defeated the Separatist forces. And in the show, they were fighting. So it was like,
in the midst.
I've
it
actually
was
got an
totally different.
Are you familiar with Marvel Comics No Prize?
No.
Marvel Comics, when they would mess up their continuity in their standard canon, and somebody would write in and they'd say, "Look, you made a mistake here," and then somebody else would write in and say, "Well, maybe it was because X, Y, and Z." Then Stan Lee would say, "That's right, true believer. That's exactly what happened. You get a no prize," which was an empty envelope. No prize, no mail. Okay, so let's no prize Kanan a bit. The Kanan comic book is clearly from Kanan's point of view. Okay? That conversation that they had could have happened the night before, and because if you watch the Bad Batch, you've got young Kanan scared out of his mind, running across, being shot at, one of them telling him, "I want to be your friend," while the other, while his buddy is taking snipe shots at him. He's a kid. He could have remembered it going down his just one series of events, all happening right then. We had this conversation, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, with trauma, you definitely
That's exactly right.
Things kind of
So
get all mixed up.
Yeah, the Kanan thing did not bother me at all because look, if I can explain it to myself, everybody out there, everybody else is smarter than me. They can explain it to themselves too. So don't complain about Kanan.
Well, and that's kind of like what I loved about, and I can't remember the name of the book off the top of my head, but the introduction of Kanan and Hera when they first met. What was that book? Dawn of
Rebellion.
A New Dawn.
A New Dawn. You could tell definitely, and I can't remember who wrote the book, but they wrote it so well that Kanan was really traumatized by all of that happened in his past. I mean, very much so. And so, to your point, Marie, I mean, the trauma, he might be remembering something different as he's retelling the story in the comic book versus what actually happened. I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I accept it.
No, exactly. It's a no prize, right? We get a no prize.
That's it. It's real. If you can no prize it, then it's not really a problem. Ahsoka's the only thing I can't completely no prize. Because Ahsoka, the novel was done from her point of view, but so was the episode.
Right. Exactly.
So Ahsoka's not going to have two different memories of this necessarily. John Jackson Miller wrote A New Dawn.
Oh, see, that's why I love him as a writer. So that
I love him.
Look, if there was one book that they need to retroactively canonize, it's Kenobi, because that book was awesome. I loved that book that John Jackson Miller wrote. It was like the last book of the EU, and then they said the Tarkin book was EU or so, or canon or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that one. I've got the cover of that book that doesn't say Legends on it. So I've got the original cover. So I'm glad I have that cover, because to me it's not Legends. It actually happened.
For me, with John Jackson Miller, I really like Lost Tribe of the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I'm like, why can't that be canon? It wouldn't affect anything.
I know. So there's so many of this. And I do like the fact now that they are at least giving new life to some of these older books by re-releasing updated audio versions of them, like Scatterpoint or whatever. Like, if you go onto Audible, some of the old Legends books are getting redone and remastered, and they're coming back out with audiobooks just to say, look, we said these are Legends, but these are really good books, and we want people to revisit them.
Yeah.
So I like that they're doing that. Sure, it's a cash grab, because you can buy a new cover or whatever if you're still purchasing physical copies of things, which I'm not really. I just do the audiobooks, and so it doesn't matter the new covers. Although, and I haven't done this in a long time, but that cover that they just released for Ronin, the Visions novel, is awesome. And so I did pre-order a physical copy of that.
Nice.
Because that cover was so cool. I can't just do the audio of that, but anytime they have Asian themed art and stuff on a novel cover of a Star Wars book, I'm all in.
Well, one thing you can definitely count on is Mickey Mouse will not leave money on the table.
No, Mickey Mouse never leaves money on the table.
I mean, if there's an opportunity, there we go. We'll just call it Legendary, slap a new cover on it, put it out again. And look, overall, I think they're doing a tremendous job. I cannot think, well, the alphabet books were not my favorite. They were good. They were okay. I got through them.
I think that those books were certainly written more for people who loved the old, like, Wedge Antilles Rogue Squadron books.
Well, you see, I love those, but
I'm not necessarily into all the space fight stuff. I mean, like with the ship, I'm not a ships guy, and so I read those books. I ended up, that trilogy overall was a good trilogy. Yeah. I thought. I mean, I felt like they wrapped it up nicely. I ended up caring about the characters more than I did in the first two books. Okay. By the time the third book came around, so it accomplished what it was meant to accomplish.
Yeah.
Now, the books that I am having a really hard time with are the Thrawn books. I like them.
I love them so much.
No, I liked the trilogy before the one that we're in right now. The one that we're in right now, I'm having such a hard time. No. There was like this is the second new Zahn trilogy or whatever, or third. This is like the third Zahn trilogy that we're in right now, isn't it? I mean, there's been so many of these Thrawn books now. It's
pre-Empire Thrawn.
Yeah, they're all pre-Empire, but I mean, I don't know. I'm just having I'm current on them, and I'm gonna read the third one when it comes out of this trilogy. But it's just, I don't know. Marie, you sound like you like them a lot.
Oh my gosh, you didn't think that in the first one, that they oh gosh, what was it called?
Are you talking about the Ascendancy trilogy or the trilogy before?
No, the most recent
the current one. Okay.
But the first book in that, how it referenced Thrawn alliances.
Okay.
That was so freaking cool.
I liked that. Because
it was a different perspective of what was, because you saw what was going on like behind the scenes in the other book, and I was just like, what? It blew my mind.
Zahn knows what he's doing, man. I love all of the Thrawn books.
Yeah.
I am such a Thrawn fan, and the fact that Ahsoka said his name in Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
Here we go. Now
I cannot wait to see who they cast. Like, the rumor is it's Lars Mikkelsen. That's just been a rumor, though, because he voiced the character in Rebels. he would be good live action, but that's not been confirmed. I mean, that's just a rumor that it's going to be him. I think it'd be good casting because both the Mickelsons are fantastic actors, but we'll see. I mean, that'll be an interesting character to see in live action for the first time. I'm very amazed that they're doing it. In all honesty, I can't believe they're doing it. I mean, it'll be cool though.
Well, we're down to our last couple of minutes here, so
Well, okay, one last trilogy that I have to say that I really love, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, and I can't believe I love this trilogy, but I do love that Padme trilogy. I am very much looking forward to that third book. I think it's October, November is the final. Man, that trilogy has been, and it just goes to show, like, I didn't really feel as if I was a guy that liked the prequels that much, but I have ended up loving anything in the prequel era.
Aren't those prequel action figures behind you?
Well, to be fair, yes, they are. Because I have retroactively decided that I love the prequels. I mean, it's like, I love this era and I love these Padme books. I think that they've just been, E.K. Johnston, it's just, she's so good at just that character. Yeah. And I've just really enjoyed, and I would have never thought I would have cared about all these different handmaidens, but I care about all these handmaidens. And so it's, they've been good books. I've really enjoyed them.
I thought it's interesting that they're not really typical narratives. Like they don't have, a build up and a specific climax and then a denouement. Like, they're not very typical narrative form, but like it's still so good. It's so interesting. I'm like my brother when it comes to this, but I love the politics of Star Wars. So I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
All those books have been great.
Well, we're going to wrap it up right here. I'm Stan Daniel from Kingdom Casts. Michael Nip from the Deuce Cast on YouTube.
And just to plug my stuff. I mean, we have for over 10 years been releasing a movie-centric podcast called the Deuce Cast Movie Show. It releases every Wednesday. We're still doing it. We're almost to episode 500. So we can't stop now. We have to keep going. And during the pandemic, I found my love for doing a YouTube show. So on Tuesdays right now, we're doing a YouTube show on most of the Marvel and Star Wars Disney Plus shows. So myself, Garrison, who is one of the hosts that has been doing that show, and we've got reoccurring guests coming in also that do that show with us. And we just talk about, for example, we're on Tuesday of this week, we're going to be talking about the finale of Loki. I know that, crazy.
So cool.
Yeah, and we're going through Bad Batch as well, but we'll keep doing that. We're probably going to do the What If show. We're probably going to do Visions when it comes out. So, in other words, whatever cool Marvel or Star Wars show is on Disney Plus, we'll be talking about that. So that releases on Tuesdays. Marie, talk about your YouTube show, because I sadly didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. So back in September, I started Afra's Artifacts, which is centered around LGBTQ plus Star Wars. And I talk about different characters, different species. I talk about issues. I've done a couple of interview shows, and all my episodes are they're under 10 minutes. So they're easy watches. They're not super long. So that's been a lot of fun. So I recommend you go to that and learn about these minor characters that most people have never heard of. So, because most of them are from the books and comics. There's just a couple from the other media, the visual media, audio visual media, excuse me. And then I have my review blog at the StarWarsReview.blogspot.com. And I am currently posting reviews every Tuesday and Thursday.
Excellent.
And Marie is being too modest. She is also a trivia queen as well. So come on.
We've said that before.
She's on Movie Trivia Schmodown. If these are in perpetuity, you can go back and watch them. Check out her stuff on Movie Trivia Shimoda. Come on, Marie.
There you go.
Plug your stuff.
Marvelous Marie
That's
Wilson.
right. That's right.
It's my nickname.
Well earned. Well, we're going to sign off for this episode. Join us on the other Star Wars video casts for the Hoover Library Sci-Fi Fantasy Festival 2021. So if you enjoyed this, you'll love the rest.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.